Hello, this is Kevin Jones. I'd like to welcome you to Dotson Ministry International. Um, Reformation Revival now is what you used to seeing, but I want to do it a little bit differently because this is a special video about my journey and those people. Now, we talked about Michael Howard and the inspiration he was, but after my ministry years or my street preaching ended in DC very abruptly and shortly, I began to kind of just move around and didn't really know where I was going. But I met this man, and this man that I'm about to tell you about would be the most important man in my network ministry. In fact, this man I'm still working with today. This man became my pastor. He was the first man to recognize my wife's ministry prophetically. He was the first man that believed in my wife. He was the man that gave me the keys to his church and not even knowing me. And he said to me, "Kevin, you have a heart for prayer. The church is free to you to use anytime." My mouth fell open. Well, this man is named Jerry Dotson. Jerry Dotson runs a college called Kingsbury College, and it's really one of the most original colleges out there, a totally online college, though they do some live classes. But this was the first time I had met Jerry, and Jerry had just been sent from God to start a work which would become Northern Virginia Community Worship Center. At the time, it was the Fairfax Church of God. And so Jerry and I begin to journey. After he gives me the keys, he begins to come over with me, as he already had an established prayer life himself. But we begin to pray together. And God began to give us intercession. I didn't know it, but this is the first time I really began to understand partnering. Up until this point, I had not understood what it meant to network or to partner. But God would allow me to partner with Jerry, and we became prayer warriors together. And God began to move on the people of our entire land. And Northern Virginia was just one part. During that time, we had to stand in the gap march there in DC. And out of that came a ministry which we would call Repairs of the Breach. And Jerry began to see things that would happen in Northern Virginia was changed. Now, during this time, there was so much prayer going on between what I was doing with Jerry and other people that I had begun to network with. For the first time, I had formed a network of people that had the desire to do the same thing. And in one of those great prayer meetings, one of the sisters had seen a vision of a man going down in the middle of Fairfax City preaching. But she didn't know that when I had just moved to Fairfax in those days, and I had a burden to preach there because I saw this transformer that looked like a podium. And I said, I just think I'm supposed to preach there. Well, she saw it. And when she gave that utterance in the prayer meeting, I began to preach for 3.5 years there, my next great preaching assignment. And at that time, God began to open doors for my wife's ministry in the community. Now, my wife and I, along with Jerry, we begin to understand the significance of partnering. Jerry, who supported both my wife and I's ministry, we begin to probably do things that were really changing things. They had totally outlawed licensing for open air preaching. No one had preached there in 60 years. They had to handwrite a license for me. And they did, and they certified, and I preached. And I was opposed and persecuted every time, but God always gave me people to preach to. And one day I got a little discouraged because I wasn't seeing any results for a while. And then a bus driver stopped and told me all the things that God was doing in the ministry. And it encouraged me, which I want to say to all of you, be faithful to what God tells you to do, no matter what it seems like. Because I tell you, when that man told me that, it gave me courage, and I continued to preach. But the significant thing about Jerry, amongst other things, not only was he a great partner and is a great partner to this day, Jerry taught me excellence. And Jerry scared me to death about money. Jerry was very good with money, but he knew that money in the form of offering was holy. He was very meticulous about what you do with God's money. To this day, he's probably the man I would trust more with with money than anybody else. So I thank God for the spirit of excellence, which Jerry has, and his wife is the epitome. Karen Dotson, his wife, the epitome of excellence. I thank God for Jerry, my partner. He was my partner back in the mid-90s. He's my partner today. And I thank God for Jerry Dean Dotson, his children, Dean, Jason, Michelle, and Brandon, and John Michael, all such a wonderful part of my life. Thank God for Jerry. And I want to continue sharing with you these important people of my journey, because they take me really into the direction. When you look back and you see that placard of God Send Ministries, this would have never happened if it wasn't for these precious people. Well, God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.